everybody. Welcome to another edition of Offstage with Ward Anderson. I am your host, yours truly, and today is a very special episode for me because although this show is seen around the world in numerous countries, it is broadcast out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, where we are. And today, I am lucky to have with me several Canadian artists who are popular not only in Canada, but around the world, and some of them in very specific markets. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what that's like to be an artist from Canada, to talk to people who are popular in other markets. So, with no more delay, please welcome the following artists. You may know him as one of the founding members of Killer Dwarfs. Please welcome Darrell Dwarf. Multiple award-nominated and award-winning multi-platinum artist who has toured all over the world. Please welcome Matt Dusk. He is Canada's smartest rapper and our returning champion. He has the credentials to prove it. The winner of the television series Canada's Smartest Person, rapper who does tour the world. Please welcome Illvibe. A man of many talents, producer, songwriter, performer extraordinaire. He has been a multi-platinum artist all over the world, seemed to come out of nowhere and then conquered it almost immediately. Karl Wolf. And my brother from another mother. This gentleman is, of course, the frontman and founding member of Finger 11, a band that has received many awards all over the country and around the world, plus multi-platinum records everywhere that you can imagine. Please welcome Scott Anderson.
Hey.
Good to see you guys. Welcome all. I want to say it was not planned, but I noticed that on this side, lots of hair. On this side,
It's true.
no hair.
It's true. It's true.
Even notice
So
that.
Yeah. We planned it that way. We
it's
had
a very interesting balance. So we kind of go this way, right? Yeah, you know, each of you has had success here in Canada and in different parts around the world. Some of you all over the world. The interesting thing to me is that nobody here, when setting out, said, you know, I'd like to be really big in Turkey, right? And yet somehow that's how it happens sometimes. You don't really know when it comes to the entertainment industry, especially the music business, sometimes where an audience is going to find you.
Absolutely.
You know, and yet sometimes that's how it works out.
You start up, you put something out, especially these days. You just put it out on the internet and you see whoever likes and is attracted to your music. You kind of have to go because it's not going to be everywhere. Like when I first started, I was from Dubai originally. So when I first started, when I put my first single out, it broke in Dubai, Japan, Europe, and then Canada was like, okay, let's start to listen to this guy from Montreal, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's how it broke. So we had to go there. We had to just, it's part of the reality of music, of entertainment, of whatever you're doing out there, especially these days.
Can I ask when that was?
That was about 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
So the internet was just kind of like...
It was at the brink of YouTube. Like
I feel so old now. I didn't mean that.
You know, but that's an interesting thing. You've been around longer than the internet,
Yes.
as far as working in the music business.
Yeah, I am very old. There's no doubt.
Experienced,
Stood
wise.
the test of time. But this is an awesome demographic of musicians here for that very reason. And a lot of these guys have had radio success, right? And when the Killer Dwarfs started out in 1981, you know, we had to kind of fight through the trenches live to make our name. It was,
So cool.
you know what I mean? It wasn't like a hit the radio, and then we were big in that market because we had a #1 hit there. So touring was essential for us to break, and bands like Iron Maiden helped us do that and brought us to places like Europe and the UK when no one knew who the hell we were. And then when we left, we laid waste to the land. And they went, dwarfs! Well, I mean, that's sort of how it went. It was, you know, in the early days. And now in a weird way, it's gone back to that for us. We're not getting any radio again. Well, we're getting XM radio, which is different,
Sure.
but not FM radio. And it's interesting. These guys, like Finger 11 or whatever, they had major hits on the radio.
Yeah, but I still need my free trip to Japan. I've been to Japan.
You do.
Yeah.
Let's all swap our successes.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
Where do you want to go? Come with me.
I had the chance.
We should do that amongst
I had the chance to interview Cheap Trick once on my radio show on Sirius XM satellite radio.
Nice.
Which
And
I love Sir.
and I remember saying, you guys had a lot of hits in Japan. And one of the guys said, "You want Germany, man. You really want Germany."
Right.
And that's the thing a lot of people, I think, watching this right now don't realize is that there's a lot of artists out there working who are from the country in which you live right now, who make their living in another country in which you will never visit, where you don't speak the language, right? Germany is supposedly a huge market for musicians because it's a very populated country with a lot of destinations to travel all close to each other, right? Where you can sell a lot of units, as they say, while also touring a lot of venues and making a lot of money.
Right.
mean,
At
they-
the shows, selling product.
They
right
still
at the
say
shows.
that like Germany and France and Canada and the States, they're all like 4 different markets. It's like saying Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter. And it's very interesting as an artist who's, we all have our successes other places, and then we try to break in a different market. And it's like they spend all this money, all this time, and you show up at the gig, and there's probably more people here. It's like it's one of those things where you try, and it's interesting.
It's funny you said radio, because metal, historically, a genre very popular, not on the radio, right?
No.
Jazz, a genre
Not at all.
on the radio
Tough,
in
too.
some places.
Yeah, 1940.
Places 19.
That's my audience there right there.
Rap,
Yep.
only on the radio the past 20 years. And really only over the
Only
past
pop
10
rap,
years,
though.
if you take out what I call fun rap, right? You look at the early days of rap being played on Top 40 radio, it was fun rap, right? And so now you finally do have entire radio stations dedicated to hip hop and rap, okay? Karl, I mean, your music, I would call, pop and R&B,
R&B, yeah, I would say.
right? You're a great blend of it.
Sure.
The two of you probably have the most opportunity as far as radio play goes.
Yes, radio was my first success ever. I mean, I started writing songs for other artists. It was always radio that took to me. So when I started making my own career, it was radio that went right away, and then everything fell. So it wasn't touring. Touring came about because of the radio success, and that's kind of how it worked.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
It's funny. Sorry, go ahead.
That makes you rare amongst this group, right?
but I
Because didn't most of you come up by building a following through touring?
Certainly, that's for me.
We
With
did.
a lot more live experience.
Yeah.
And these days, I'm probably the youngest one on the panel. It's a lot of internet as well. So it's internet and touring. Hey, I'm just good at math. I'm just saying. Yeah, just a lot of internet and live touring as a mix.
It's funny though, like terrestrial radio. It was like the holy grail for most artists. As a young kid growing up, you're like, oh man, how cool it'd be to hear your song. And then the first time you get there, it's like, that's kind of cool. Now when it happens, you're kind of like, where do I fit in the mix of all this, right? Because things are changing so quickly, especially with the accessibility of YouTube or Spotify or something where literally you can go on any afternoon and listen to 40 different genres within 2-3 hours, and it's amazing because there's so much great music out there that radio will never, ever, ever, ever
absolutely.
hear.
You know what's funny? When you mentioned Spotify, I was on Spotify the other day, and I'm listening to a playlist. They've got incredible songs.
Yeah.
Like literally, Spotify has some of the coolest records, man.
And
And
they're
they're not,
so-
and
we're-
nobody
we're
knows.
on
Like
it.
I don't know if anyone
But
knows.
That's
about it.
why Spotify is doing so well,
Yeah.
because you're not the only one discovering that. Every high school kid in the
Yeah,
world is like,
exactly.
oh my God, look at all this great music. And getting a song placed on a Spotify playlist has more
insane.
power than getting a spin on
Absolutely.
terrestrial radio.
Like I welcome my 4-cent royalty check.
Yeah.
and
Me too.
It's a bit of a hit, right?
No, but if you do get on there, like we were examining the other day, where we see people like Ed Sheeran, who's Sheeran. Sorry, I don't know. I'm jazz.
Yeah.
But he's got like 8 to 10 million plays a day, and on Spotify, and then he'll go to the O2 Arena and sell it a week with just guitar. I mean, it's insane what can happen, and that traditionally I don't think is traditional terrestrial radio. It becomes so popular that radio can't stop. Maybe I'll open for him one day.
But you know what?
Shearing.
That's an interesting subject you raise, because you as a jazz artist, I can find you on the jazz dial. Because there are jazz stations in major markets, right? I hear you every Christmas on pop
that's
radio. because you're singing the classics, and on the pop station every Christmas I hear your songs coming up. With you guys, you each are going to have your own station, your own niche. Now, Finger 11, for instance, broke out through what they would call like a power ballad, I would say, right? Wasn't your first big hit
Yeah.
like a power ballad?
That was on our third record.
Yeah.
Right? So we had 2 records. It's a very strange story, and I don't think it happens like this anymore. I don't know if there's any sort of like musical muscle. Like, you can't have 2 giant failures and then and be like, okay, go make a third record. Yeah. Like it's
all with the same label.
Right. Well, the real story is we had a Canadian deal, and we put out our first Finger 11 record, and we got dropped within a week. And so we were young enough, we were like, this is fine. It doesn't matter. Like we thought we created this like awesome, like all people have to do is just hear it. They're going to fall in love with it. We were young. We were pretty young.
We're all like that.
Right. You know what I mean? So
That's why we drink. That's
right. So anyway, we get a deal. We eventually get an American deal, and we were the second signing from the label that brought you Creed. Okay?
Right.
So their first success,
Huge.
like, oh, we'll start a label and we'll sign Creed, and they took over the planet.
Yeah.
Right? And so we were signing number 2, and they're like, okay, cool, go.
You're it.
Go be as successful. And we were, it was.
And they had the money to put behind it.
They had the money to put behind it, and it was quite a time, So we got to make, 4 or 5 records, but we broke on the 3rd record. So, it's like that doesn't happen anymore. So we're very lucky.
You're lucky they stuck with you.
Yep.
For those 3 records.
Oh yeah, and also, they were such a pain in the ass. Right? Like our attitude was like, oh, this label.
Yeah, right.
It's like now that it's
You didn't know how good you had it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I would tell you, I love to study the history of music, especially like popular music, rock and roll. And there's so many artists. If you go back 50 years, 30 years, even just 20 years, 25 years ago, you read so much about, well, their first album came out and didn't make much of a dent. The second album came out and barely anybody noticed, but critics seemed to be okay with it. The third album came out and that one finally went gold. And you go, oh my God, you would never get to third album. Some artists, I'm talking about huge artists.
I think
It
it's
took 4 to 5 albums.
Well, I think
for
Tommy.
them.
Artist development, right?
Yeah.
Development.
Well,
that's
Tom
what it
Petty
was.
said that. He said, I remember watching an interview. He's like, man, kids these days, I have no idea. In our days, we got 5 records to prove ourselves. Because man, if kids are hitting it, that's like the lottery. And obviously we all love music, so we're still around. The question is then people say, well, what about your first deal? Why were you dropped? What about the second and third? And what most people don't understand is that it's the longevity of a career, which gives us the reason why we're
Living
bigger.
proof.
But you know what?
For 40,
Yeah.
But you know what? Also, let's be honest. A lot of this also is because of the luck of being a Canadian artist.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
there's more tax credits to do
Absolutely.
a Canadian album.
Absolutely.
There's grants to be a Canadian artist, things like that. I know more Canadian artists that are given a second or third opportunity than I do, say, U.S. artists.
Well, we're
Right?
given the opportunity through like Factor and Star Maker to actually go out and.
What's that?
There's 2 granting programs. One's one by the government, and then one's by private broadcasters, and they give money back to the artists for the government earmarks certain money for artists to be able to develop talent, and then to go out on the road and to promote. And then the Star Maker Fund actually goes out as private broadcasters. They give money back into the artistry to create more of an opportunity for artists to continue on their
With
success.
milestones, etc.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've probably been with Star Maker.
We haven't, because we don't qualify
Wow.
for.
You're too big.
Well, sure. But it's like, if we work with an American producer with an American label, there's not enough Canadian
that's
components,
why.
right? So we've never been able to benefit from that. It might be a different story with the
I'll help you with that.
That Factor grant, right? That Factor grant has been around. Killer
amazing.
Dwarfs used it in 1987. Our 2 biggest videos were Factor granted videos. Keep the Spirit Alive and Stand Tall was 2.
And these days, Factor covers the trip. Whenever I'm trying to go to Europe to a music conference and build my team out there,
Yeah.
Factor foots the bill. And whenever I'm there talking to American artists, they ask me to repeat myself. Like, I'm sorry, what?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
The government is covering your
they
ticket
don't get
here and the hotel and and that's amazing. And it's not available to
Incredible.
everybody. You've kind of got to prove your value and that you're going to do this properly, and there's more
Absolutely.
to it than that. But the fact that it's even available to us is a game changer.
And I think everyone should apply for it too, even if you're told no. Like I'm told no all the time, and I think
Yeah.
we all have.
Yeah.
I think we've all told that we're terrible, or that we've had like this is never going to work.
me, but
no, I meant I was talking to Ward. I was talking to Ward.
People tell me I'm terrible all the time, especially Matt. Matt tells me I'm terrible.
You suck.
But you know what? There's a double-edged sword here.
Yeah,
and that is
absolutely.
that, man, it's great that this is there for the Canadian artists.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's a shame this has to be there for the Canadian artists.
True.
But that's
You
in
know-
general.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, I think it's a great thing, right? That Canadian artists have this funding and that there are these grant programs, right? And at the same time, from the Canadian content laws that say that a majority of the content played on radio and television needs to be Canadian, to these grants and all that, that is there because you get the impression that if given the choice, the powers that be would go, screw that.
Pretty much.
Let's,
agree.
Let's take the stuff from the States and cash
Exactly.
it.
And not just the
easier.
powers that be, the home listener.
It's
Like,
easier.
The mom and dad
Huge.
at home want to hear Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so it's,
Exactly.
I think in a lot of ways, it's the government responding to geography. We've got America right there. There's no getting around that. And so what can we do to keep us alive?
Right.
And bless them for it.
I mean, I say that at the beginning of this, I said that no artist goes, man, I hope I'm big in Turkey. But let's be honest. Every single person sitting here, myself included, goes, man, I hope I'm big in the States.
Yes, true.
It's close.
Right?
That's why. I
And it's
mean,
big.
Is it because it's closer or because it's big?
It's big.
It depends on what level. I mean, you know.
it's the population, though.
That's what
They're
I'm saying.
there.
It's
I
big.
think-
And
Yeah.
the number of markets
If
you
it
can
wasn't
tour
for
in the US.
America, you know,
My first US
Killer
tour, I was
Dwarfs
like,
wouldn't be here.
oh.
Crazy.
Because I'd only ever toured in Ontario, where you have to drive 9 hours to anything else
Exactly.
we're going to.
Yeah.
And you're in the Midwest, and you're like, wait, there's another town 1 hour, and then
hour.
20 minutes, and then what? It's entirely
Done it
different.
forever.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Without a tour bus.
You see, I've
forget it.
never toured America. I mean, I've never.
Interesting.
I signed a deal with Universal Republic. For after Africa, I released the cover of Toto there.
Right.
And
Hopefully
never-
you will.
Never toured
Hopefully you
America,
will.
but I've
'Cause
toured everywhere else around the world.
It's beautiful.
Right.
Except America.
That's crazy.
Well, see, and
to
this
me.
is interesting because
crazy
of all the people here, right here, you've had the most multi-platinum success in other parts of the world without touching the States.
Right.
Right?
Crazy, right? Because you would think that the States would be the general explosion from there, then you kind of go everywhere else. And because that's what they usually do. You sign stateside, and then they can take you internationally. But the way we did it is like, okay, no one wants to sign us in the States? No problem. Let's try this area or whatever. And that's where you got, look, the thing is, I was really...
And you are big in Turkey.
I don't know about Turkey.
No,
The
you are
Middle
big in
East.
Turkey.
Really? I didn't
Is that why you keep bringing up Turkey?
I've never been to Turkey, but yeah.
There you go, buddy.
Cool.
But I was on top of everything at the time. I was on top of all my social media. I'm really hands-on with everything. I've got like 7, 8 different applications. I mean, for, platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and I'm on it. And I remember there was message boards back in the day, and like 10 years ago, and that's what I was on though. People were writing and saying, "We love you in Saudi Arabia." I'm like, dude, okay, I want to go. You're not allowed to go. Okay, cool. Well, I won't go.
Okay.
But what's close to it? Dubai. Okay, cool. We're going to Dubai, and we signed a deal there. I mean, I was on it though. I was always, communicating with the fans. I mean, that's really important for any artist, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's huge, man.
Right.
I do it myself. I put
I still
hours
do it
per
till
day
day.
talking
I don't
to our
care. I
fans.
still do it.
Hours and
for you.
hours
That's
and
great.
hours I put in.
I have
With
such
social media.
I've got such an old school. I would really rather just hang out after the show and like talk to everybody and
Right.
just hang out. Like it's so weird. And I know it's like
I just had to feed it though. There's no.
Yeah.
It's like they're asking for it,
Yeah.
and you can't just turn your back away. There's people asking for you,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and there's no one else. I mean, we didn't have the budget to hire,
Publicists
assistants
or-
and things like that. I was just doing it myself. I'm like, hey, yes, we'll come to you. Oh, Carl's such a nice guy, and it just literally spread. The word just spread like that.
You're
Like
not a
that.
nice
I'm
guy.
not a nice guy. That's what I'm going to say.
But
If they were
still,
wrong,
persona.
but I still had a career in those places.
Don't tell anybody.
I can tell you this. I can look at each of you and figure out where in the world you're popular and why, knowing the music. Knowing metal, I know Eastern Europe. Very popular in Eastern Europe, Russia, places like that.
Well,
I know that.
you're wrong.
Really?
Yep. We're the biggest in the United States. to tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Because
our biggest
I've known
market.
so many metal bands.
You're right though. Metal's huge in Europe.
Yeah.
Huge. But for some weird reason with us, we don't tour those places. I think it's more black metal and really heavy metal.
Right.
We're like melodic metal band. We're like the Scorpions, you know,
Sure.
that era. That's
like
what era, yeah. Right? You know? So I think a lot of those markets you're talking about, Slayer's big over there and stuff, right?
Sure.
But we're big in the UK though, for example, because of Iron Maiden, because of these tours we did. I brought it up earlier. So there you go. Different with me, maybe.
And of course, I know how big jazz is in Europe.
You're wrong.
Places like that.
You're going to be wrong.
Never
about
say
everything
the
in
host
life.
is wrong. I'm probably kicked off.
But it's interesting to know.
There you go. It's the truth.
But I know how big jazz is in Europe, so I know that you've got a large following there. Really big in Poland.
That's where death
Really?
metal is.
And he's right. It is there.
But you've
I
won,
know,
you've
it's-
won the Polish equivalent of a Grammy.
Yeah, it's weird.
I heard about that.
Yeah, this
Holy.
is-
Really? I
Was
didn't
that a
know
big thing? That it was news or something?
It was. I mean,
Yeah.
but I was very taken back by it because it's like I put the same show on if there's 10 people or 10,000 people. So after being in the business long enough, you just don't get acknowledged for anything. And you're just like, well, here's another day, and then you get the award, and you're kind of like. Was I supposed to prepare a speech in Polish? I don't, so it
Are
was.
you Polish?
No, my wife is. Maybe that's.
I
why.
knew there was.
Ah, sure. I knew there was an in somewhere.
I remember reading.
But isn't that coincidence?
Yeah,
I think it's two-part. I think number one, as we all know, we wouldn't have careers if it wasn't for our music to begin with. That's the starting point. But then, what's the story?
Correct.
What's the story? Why do people want to be interested in this? Because
Yeah,
everyone
give
can
them
sing
reason to
about.
love you, right?
Well, they want to know. In my opinion, it's like, what makes this person different from the next person? Absolutely. Right, and plus, Michael Bublé doesn't go there, so.
I knew he'd come up.
I will tell you this.
That's a great point
is
you bring up, though.
You're in a very lucky place in the fact that
Next to Karl Wolf, it's not bad.
no form of music has spread across the world faster than hip hop and rap.
That's true.
There's not country music in South Africa, but there's a lot of hip hop and rap.
I get a lot. It's interesting on social media. You get as a rapper, and because like my name on all social media is clearly it's Illvibe. It's clearly a rapper. You get hit up by people with broken English from the tiniest corners of the world. It's like, hi, I write raps, because they perceive you as this famous North American rapper, and you get this really interesting, bizarre. I don't call it fan mail. It's almost like young rapper mail from like Kenya, and this guy's like put together.
That's awesome.
Like trying to appeal to you as a rapper, and it's very interesting. Yeah, you're right about that.
I get weird fan mail from Russia because they think I'm Scott's brother.
You know what's funny? I told my wife I was doing the show. I was like, yeah, so it's with Ward Anderson, and she goes, who? And she's like, are you guys related? I'm like, babe, we've been together for 6 years. Like, maybe Ward is like he'd show up to maybe 1 or 2 events throughout that time. No, we're not related. I just thought it was awesome that it was a really straight face
That your
question.
wife was
Yeah, it's
is this
like-
a cousin I haven't met?
Yeah, no, I'm doing a show. You didn't.
That's a TV show? Yeah. Now, Karl, your music, I actually find it interesting that you haven't broken big in the States. And the reason I say that is because pop/R&B, again, like rap, is that kind of music that translates all around the world.
What's funny is I just wrote a song for Omi. I don't know if you remember the artist Omi, Cheerleader.
Yeah.
I wrote the second single, which is called The Hula Hoop.
Oh,
And that
I didn't
it
know that.
sold 150
That's
million
insane.
digital sales in the
big tune.
States and around the world.
Wow.
So the songs I write, for some reason they connect there. But it could be maybe because I'm Middle Eastern. I don't know what it is.
How do you
There's
feel about
something
that?
that's
I was just gonna- yeah.
missing.
How do you feel about that? Yeah, because you've written hits that are huge in the States, but
Right.
you haven't broken that.
No.
Is it a Middle Eastern?
Well, you know what? That's why I was saying. Tom brought a good point up, and he said that when people connect to you, there's a story, there's a reason, And at the beginning of my career, even though I wasn't making necessarily Middle Eastern infused records, which I was touching on, dabbing on, but they knew that I was from Dubai and from the Middle East originally, and so they connected to me there first. And so on the message boards, it was mainly people from that part of the world, and they were like, "Oh, someone in North America that's
cool.
that's like us, but he's doing it,
Understands.
and he's making English music and R&B and whatever." So that's what really gave me a base. So that's why I wanted to bring that point up. It's really cool, and I don't know if it's that. I can't imagine that people would think like that. So
I have 2 words for you.
yes.
American management.
There you go. There you go.
That's all you need, probably.
Absolutely,
man,
yeah.
to really break
I
in
mean,
America.
I did sign a deal with BMG as a writer and producer, so I do have my foot in there.
Yeah.
I just, for some reason, as an artist, it hasn't broken.
Call
I
up
don't know.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I'll just call him up and
He's the
I
man.
know Bob's
Your,
worked with him.
we actually did a record, me and Snoop.
He's great.
That's funny.
Oh, no, it was you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You
we
the
did a
work with
record,
Snoop.
yeah.
That's right.
I love the guy.
Scott?
We played a show with Snoop. It was awesome. It was us and then Snoop. And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Wow.
Nobody remembers our portion of it. But I wanted to
Everybody was
ask,
too high.
it was awesome. He had his backstage
Very cloudy.
deal was amazing. Like
Oh,
a
yeah?
big tent with like these beautiful couches and there was smoke coming out of it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it was whatever you think Snoop Dogg's backstage is what it is.
Dry
He's
ice.
Willie Nelson.
But
in that-
right.
In that version.
Matt has an inflatable chair with a curtain over it.
It's pretty sweet.
That's
Most
that's
times,
on the budget.
most times backstage is like not as fun as you think.
No.
I mean, it's maybe a case of beer with some ice on it, and maybe
George.
a terrible bathroom.
Uh-huh.
You know, but it's like it's more the mystique of backstage is better than actual backstage. But I want to ask you, as a songwriter, as a guy that's basically, when you. Like, I've never been able to write for anybody. But when you give away, like, do you feel like, oh, I'm giving this baby away? Or it's like, you know what, I wrote it, and I know you can
Right.
sort of interpret it and sell it and be
For
good
me,
with it?
it's not even like that. When I first started, I was just writing songs for me to get signed. I would write demos, record them, and then it was labels saying, okay, we don't want you for some reason, but we want those songs for our artists that we have.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, okay, fine. Well, let me make money then. So it
Yeah.
costs you $4,000 for the production. So I started building my,
Okay.
I started making money that way, and that's how. But I always write for me, and then they're like, oh, we like that song for this artist. I'm like, all right, fine, here we go.
Oh, see, that's the best of
how it
both
works.
worlds.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, well, I don't have to pretend
It's
that
hard
I'm...
to do that. I can't even fathom
Yeah.
writing for someone
Well, I
else
like that.
and thinking of them. Like, what is
Right.
that?
And that's what
a
most
different
writing
talent.
camps do, though.
They do. I'm not part of
It's
writing
crazy.
camps. I was having a conversation with one of my publishers,
Yeah.
and they were saying, Karl, we want to get you out to LA. We want you to do writing camps in Greece. I'm like, man, I don't. What does that mean? 20 guys in a room writing.
Focus group.
Let me just
Yeah.
do it in my house. Like, that's how I write music. It's from the soul, man. I don't know.
And it also takes a while. Like I don't know if you feel the same way, but the songs that you may know from my band
Right.
took like a couple hours,
Right.
maybe.
Correct.
That's insane.
Right? We're
It's
just
luck
like,
of the draw.
oh, I know exactly what to do with this. This is a cool piece of music. I hope I don't screw it up. And then, you just write
Not
until...
screwing it up is what 80% of songwriting.
Got to get out of
Yeah.
your own
Like,
way, right? Yeah.
Just this is the
Overthinking it,
production's
trying to
great. This feels like a
think,
great
yes.
moment. Don't
Is
screw it up in the words.
Is it easier because you're collaborating as a group, or is it easier for you as by yourself?
Well, see, I'm blessed with, I'm given a cool piece of music. So it's
Right.
like, oh, okay, I know where to take this.
Right.
Right? It's like I now very often it's like you'll get something, you'll be like, oh, I've all of a sudden written for this piece of music, but this is what I was thinking. You know, like so it's a good marriage. So I'm in charge of the lyrics and melody, they're in charge of the music.
That's cool.
Okay, let me ask you this. Now, you guys have had gold and platinum success in the States. We're talking about that.
That's insane.
That breakthrough.
Thanks.
Did you ever expect that, or did you just try to be Canadian band?
Okay, so in the beginning, we had that really arrogant attitude, right? Like
you're young.
of course we're gonna take over the
What's
planet.
we're talking about?
It's
Yeah,
simple,
it's
it's
coming,
easy.
baby.
Right? It was a little, the further on you go, it's like it's not always. It's not like put out a record and it's gonna go to #1. You know.
Yeah.
When it happens, we were touring, didn't get a lot of time. Like I want to say like a year and a half or 2 years touring constantly in the States and Canada. Because you could do that if you wanted. So this is right around like the Paralyzer era. And so it was when Paralyzer hit #1 and it's sort of, everything started happening, we were on the road, I think we were in Texas. And it was just a phone call. We were going to dinner, we're like, oh, all right, good. That's a nice bit of news, we're exhausted.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a big party, it was more like, okay, well, good. This is great. We're gonna do another show tomorrow, another one after
Give me
that,
my
another one
hotel
after that.
room.
So it's great. I mean, I love the road. It's exhausting,
Yeah.
and there's nothing else like it. And when you're home for too long,
You get sick.
you get that itch, right? You got to go out again.
Well, now here's another thing. Now, you mentioned earlier opening for Slater.
No, Iron Maiden.
Hey, Iron Maiden, sorry. This is another thing, too, I've noticed with a lot of Canadian artists, is that ends up being their way into different markets, not necessarily the States. but off in the States,
Well,
they
it
wind
was
up.
in our case, and
Yeah.
I mean, we've toured with everybody over the years, like Dio and Scorpions, Motley Crue. We've toured with them all pretty much, right?
I guess you're lucky because metal has that loyal audience that they remember the opening acts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they're looking for it. They're looking for another band to support. Metal fans are the best in the world.
It's the story of Anvil,
You guys,
right?
yeah.
Canadian
No,
band Anvil.
No, it's our story, not Anvil.
But I mean,
you know what I mean? Anvil has a cool
But there's
story.
so many, you
Anvil
have
has
these
a cool
metal
story.
bands that get discovered because they open for other acts around the world and then clicked with those audiences there.
Absolutely. I think it happens with you guys too.
I
When you
think
get out with
when you
other
said
artists.
metal fans are the best fans in the world, they're loyal.
Yeah.
I don't know that every genre would summarize that the same way.
Yeah.
For example, I think at hip hop shows, I try not to open for people because no one's there to see me,
Right.
and there's a better use of my time and energy than to support someone.
It's definitely
like,
a different.
And in certain cases, if it's a legend and I love them and it's the right show, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't go out there being like, and all these people are gonna go home and like look for my. It's
No,
like
and
it
you're
doesn't
right.
work that way
It's
in
a
hip hop as
totally
much.
different demographic.
Yeah.
The whole heavy metal world is totally different than the hip hop world.
Well, and as
As
jealous.
it should be.
I'm jealous.
As it should be.
And as a jazz artist,
You
it's not
guys
something
just sell too many records. Stop selling all those records. Please.
They don't have
Drives me
records
nuts.
anymore.
Okay, I call them records. They're recordings. Right?
know,
You're
that's
recording. It's a record.
It's so weird. Cars don't even come with CD players anymore. It's like-
Exactly.
Yeah, but the vinyl's making
But
a
you
big
need them to
comeback.
come with a turntable.
Exactly.
Like right in the middle.
I think my crowd might be still in cassettes. We're not sure, but
Yeah.
I mean, vinyl's obviously that beautiful. It's got that nostalgia to it where you put the record on,
Experience, right?
you light the candles, put the or whatever, and it's kind of got that cool sound. But in a real world of listening to music, I find vinyl completely clumsy and useless because as a musician, I listen to music all the time. 12 hours a day, I've got some sort of music playing on in the background, and I couldn't imagine flipping 24 sides. It'd be like insane. But at the same time, it's like
It's a
records.
culture, though, man. Vinyl's
It is true.
great. And it's a warmer sounding format to me.
If you get the right guy to do it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they're
no, I
dying.
know.
They're all dying. That's the problem. All
Yeah.
all the artists, the artisans of
Yeah.
making vinyl records, they're
Yeah.
dying. And you get these
True.
new kids who come and like, oh, I just made this vinyl record, and you hear it, and
Right.
it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
I get what you
Well,
mean. though.
I talked about opening for other bands and getting
Yeah.
an audience that way.
Mm-hmm.
We have two artists here, both of which got a bit of a following through television, different types of television.
Mm-hmm.
Game show slash
Funny
reality
enough.
show.
The weirdest way to catch a buzz in the rap game, for sure.
Canada's Smartest Person. You won, season 1?
So I basically won the premiere of season 1. I did not win the entire season. There's some robots on that show that are impossible to beat.
What?
But you still get to
Crazy.
call yourself Canada's
I'm
Smartest
Canada's
Rapper.
smartest rapper, and I was able to leverage that into just trading off of the attention. Especially here in Canada, there's not a lot of rappers with nationwide attention, so you can do a lot with that, and that's what I was able to do.
And you were on a reality show
Totally.
called The Casino.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Bane of my existence.
you
It
know,
was in the heyday of the Mark Burnett productions, like the big, large scale time of The Apprentice came out, Survivor. A lot of expectation was placed on it, but it's like there's no such thing as reality TV as we all know now. It's unscripted BS, right? I mean, that's really what it is.
so let me ask you, this is something that comes up a lot when I talk to musicians. We talk about the concept of selling out. And I said there was a time when that was a bad word or bad term, and now it's something that every artist not only wants but needs. Because there was a time when selling out or attaching to a brand or something was what got you from a mansion to a bigger mansion. Now it's the thing that gets you from a car to a tour van. It's something that's necessary, especially in Canada, if you can attach yourself to a brand or something like that. By a show of hands, who here would sign on for a reality show following them around? Who would do it?
I would for sure.
You would?
I'm producing one now and waiting for someone else to do it properly.
Scott?
I mean, I'd have to sort of. I mean, I guess everybody's got a price, but I would say no at this point.
You'd think I'd be in for sure. I am the rock and roll pirate of heavy metal, but I don't think I'd want to do it. Like, you mean have my family involved and all that, and that kind of reality show?
Sure, why not?
I wouldn't want to do the Ozzy Osbourne thing, man. I just not into it. Wouldn't want to do it.
Matt?
Well, it's difficult because I've been on it and I've been offered other opportunities to do it, and it's not just you. It's everything that's around you. And remember,
Exactly.
they're producers, they're television producers. They're there to do one thing, to create captivating television. So if they need to bend the truth,
Yeah.
of course, and what are you going to
that's
say?
it,
What are you
right
going to
there.
say? You're like, hey, listen, we
what I
need you
see.
to sweeten the scene so that your wife and your mother-in-law are arguing about the color of the paint. You know, because they want to see that. Like, oh, she's terrible. I can't believe it. And it's just like, it's not
It's
real.
unreality television.
Reality is
'Cause
boring.
It's scripted. It's scripted.
Oh yeah, the show.
This is boring.
Yeah, the real
everybody.
show would be me sitting on a couch waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah.
You know, you know, like
I'd watch
board
that,
games.
man. I'd watch
Playing
that.
board games, right?
absolutely.
I don't know.
Okay, so that's television.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk awards. Right? Okay, several Junos. You do have some Junos.
We got the one. We got the best rock
one?
album. Yeah.
Okay, one Juno.
Yeah.
Several nominations. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, 3 nominations.
3 nominations, right?
I'm working on my first Juno. I'm on my way.
Okay. Several nominations.
3.
All right, you guys.
Me too.
All right.
Wow.
We were up 3 times. I got a cool story quick. We were up for that hard rock record of the year in '92, I think it was.
And it went to Jethro Tull.
we were up against Rush. And,
wow.
and Rush are some of our heroes. And Russ and I were at the award show when we were so nervous.
That's so cool.
You know what I mean? And it was our Dirty Weapons record. It was produced by Andy Johns. I mean, the record sold, you know, we sold over 2 million records. Killer Dwarfs.
That's
People don't
insane.
realize that. Nobody knows that. There's no trophies for us or anything. Meanwhile, we sold that many records, but back in our day, Motley Crue was selling 35 million.
Right.
So
Right.
2 million wasn't really super great. Now it's insane.
2
You
million is
can sell 2
terrible.
million.
Oh my God. It's
Well,
why am I on the same couch as
see,
you?
I've rolled through 4 decades of rock and roll, and it's changed that much. You know what I mean? But anyway, we lost against Rush, and thank God, because Russ and I were sinking in our seats. The Killer Dwarfs,
What are we
30
gonna say?
weapons. No. Rush, bam, they won it. I was happy. I just didn't feel we were worthy to beat Rush.
Do the nominations and award change your money? Do they change your tour schedule? Does it change your demand?
No.
I don't know if they.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Remember. I remember
I
trying to
don't
not make a big deal out of it. Be like, oh, we got nominated for Juno. It's not a big deal. And then when it starts, then when like they're about to announce your name or not, all of a sudden it becomes very important. You know, it's like
More
you have to-
people know who you are.
You know,
now.
you're like,
Right?
I
Am I
guess I
gonna
do
remember
care. I
what
guess
I'm
I
supposed
really
to
do
say?
care. So it's nice. I don't. I've got a bunch of platinum records and stuff that I haven't hung up yet.
Yeah.
I guess I'll get to it, but I do have my Juno. I've got like a giant tank shell that was given to us by this battalion that we played for in, out west in Canada.
Like a firing show?
Yeah, and they turned it into a beer stein for us.
Oh, very cool.
So they presented it to us after we played. It's a
amazing.
cavalry division, and so I have that, and I have my Juno on my in my kitchen. You know,
cool, man.
but I get a little. I want my home to look like a home. I don't know. Like I got to finish
Yeah.
my basement, and then I'll put up all my records.
Do you ever get mixed up and pull the Juno?
It's like there's no beer.
No, that's not it.
What the hell's going on?
You know, you're not the
Thing's
first.
useless.
You're not the first person I've heard say that. That's why so many artists, if they do have the gold and platinum records that
Yeah.
are framed or whatever, that's in an office somewhere or somewhere
Mm-hmm.
farther away because they say, at some point, even though it's an award and you're proud of it, you're bringing your work home.
And your stupid face is on the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't. No one needs that. You know. So it's like, oh, I don't.
And when I don't have any Junos, but my little Toronto Independent Music Awards and stuff. You don't want it to be awkward. People walk in and it's like, hey, look at my accolades.
I do.
For me, the accolades, what they really do for
It
me.
doesn't bother me at all.
No.
I've got them all right up in the front when you walk in the door. Every
me-
award I've won is actually made into a doorknob that gets you into a
Smart.
different room of my house.
Cool.
It's really
It's
smart.
like an escape room.
For me, the accolades have acted way more as, I'm trying to get added to a festival in Croatia. And they don't know me in Croatia yet, but he's heard a thing or two, and then you can position a few accolades, like, look, I'm not a complete amateur, and you can kind of parlay into some opportunities sometimes. So I think coming in my position, being, speaking for artists who are on that bubble of commercial success, it helps open doors. A lot of the time, that's why I'm excited about somebody naming you in a magazine or getting some independent music
I mean,
award.
all it does is just get you press, right?
That's right.
It gives you the ability to get out there and to get your music out there. Because at the end of the day, if they can add on this year, this album nominated, it
Yeah.
gives a story, and it gets back to the story. What are we
true.
talking
Story.
about, right? At first, like, what did this record do? I mean, maybe it sold 2 million records. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you got Juno, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's all about press.
This is interesting because this is a very Canadian conversation right now.
Yeah.
Because in the States,
Junos, yeah.
getting a Grammy is a difference between a nice record contract and a really
It changes
nice
the game.
record contract with longevity and then the nicer venues and everything. Whereas I've asked this of Canadian artists before, and I go, what does getting that award mean? And they go, it means a little more press, and I can get into some festivals. I can get into these other things, right? Some little notoriety.
I've got some friends with Junos and day jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Junos and day jobs is like my mantra.
But
I don't want one if I still have to have the other one.
See,
you know?
again, it's population, though. It's not our
Yeah.
fault.
It's true.
It's like America has the population to justify the sales, right? Like, I mean, what's a gold record here now? 25,000?
40.
Used to be
40,000.
50?
40,000.
What is it now?
40,000.
Okay, it used
And
to
where
be
do you
50.
buy them?
Yep.
then it
They
went to
lowered
20.
It used to be
wow.
50,000.
Yeah, they
lowered
had
it.
to.
A platinum album is 80,000. Used to be
Yeah.
100,000.
Isn't that crazy?
But the funny thing is, Canada is also, we're also speaking it from a very English point of view. Quebec is like
another
whatever.
world.
They do an entirely different thing.
they
Where one of the artists that I was working with as a duet partner, she sold 300,000 records within the last 6 years.
What's her name?
Florence K.
Florence.
Well,
Yeah, I know
Celine
her.
Dion started
But
out that
you
way.
would know her. But outside of you, because you're from there, we're like,
Produced records in Quebec first when I was in Montreal.
That's insane.
And I had the privilege of working with Antoine Sicot from Sky. Remember the band
Yeah.
Sky?
Yeah.
So we partnered up and we produced Star Academy, the show Star Academy, which is
Right.
massive. My first single that I wrote for that project
insane.
sold 500,000 albums in Quebec alone. That was my first professional, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I can write a song.
Well, that's
This
what
is crazy.
a lot of people watching this show right now are in the States and around the world. And it's interesting how little people know about Canada. You know, a huge country when you see it on the map, but they don't know there's only about 34 million people. What they also don't know is that the French province of Quebec has its own star system.
Absolutely.
Separate from the rest
And
of the
they're
country.
very loyal to
Even
it.
as a comedian,
Yeah.
I have some friends who are comedians in Quebec who a friend of mine did a tour that grossed $1.5 million doing stand-up comedy across Quebec. There's no comedian in Canada
Interesting.
that's making that kind of a profit.
Loyal audience.
You know, other than, and this is someone only touring within the province of Quebec, right? And the same thing goes for Florence K, as you said, Florence K in French. I can't say that.
Actually,
But I
know
mean,
her very well.
you're
Yeah,
talking
good
about somebody
friend.
that's
She's
gone
fantastic.
multi-platinum in Quebec alone.
I know Celine Dion started that way.
Yeah.
She was huge in
Yeah.
Quebec, and no one knew who she was.
Well, I think
And
also-
she was on our label, Sony, when she first, and we were at the Juno Awards, and I didn't know who she was, and she was being nominated.
First time
She
I
turns
ever,
into this mega star.
Celine
Celine Dion.
The first time, as a guy growing up in
This
Atlanta,
guy.
Georgia, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and the first time I saw Celine Dion was presenting an award on the Grammys.
There you
When
go.
I didn't know who she was. She was this woman with a French accent giving an award to David Foster.
There you go.
So, you know, it's an interesting thing that, you know, we can have the artists here going, man, I'd love to have a big hit in Germany, right? And then you can have a French artist never leave Quebec and sell multi-platinum, right?
In a lot of ways,
And-
Quebec's almost like a European country. Like it exists the way some of those small European countries do, where they've got a
Like
you know,
Germany.
star in Belgium
Germany's
or somewhere.
self-supported.
They're big there.
A lot of their own artists
Yeah.
don't have to go anywhere.
Going
And then
back-
Japan too, right? Japan's always a huge market. Certain bands
Japan
just.
loves music,
Yeah.
man. That's the thing about
I know.
Japan.
So, I
You've-
know
you've had a
metal
number one
bands
hit.
that just go to Japan. That's
Dude,
it. American bands.
I
that
sold
go to
a
Japan.
million records in Japan.
Yeah. That's
Matt's
great.
had you've had a number one hit in Japan.
I actually had a number one like pop hit there, which was a jazz song. If like how ridiculous is that? When I go there, I'm on the karaoke. I'm like, okay, I've made it.
Really
I'm on karaoke in
That's
Japan.
right.
That's
so
it's
cool.
so
That's
weird. But
awesome.
the thing is, though, it's also the pop market is also, you know, they're very fickle and they overturn songs very
Absolutely.
quickly. So it's a 24-hour, you know.
There's no touring there. Have you noticed?
For jazz, there is just because
there is?
they're,
Okay.
but it's very small. It's like you play like
Because
you
it's a
know,
club market?
It's a club market, so you're playing for like 250 people. But I remember when we had that hit, I played in like this is how ridiculous it and how foreign it was to me. I was singing in a club called the Blue Note. We did 2 shows a night for 10 days straight, completely sold out with a big band. So you got to remember, like this place only holds 250 people. There's 20 people on stage, and we did 20 shows with it. Like this is like 1945. And, like this doesn't happen.
Supper club.
Totally.
Right.
That's good.
Crazy.
Niche.
By the way, does the club called the Blue Note sound kind of like a sex act?
Wasn't it?
Last night I gave her
There's a blue note everywhere. There's one in Winnipeg. I know that. There's a blue note in Winnipeg. I
Isn't
know
it
that.
like a prestigious jazz label? Like I thought there was.
Yeah, well, Ward just ruined that.
But you know, you said you sold 1 million records
Yeah,
in Japan.
That's amazing.
Tour
Did
zero.
you? But did you even set out to? Was it like it got released there and someone called you up?
No.
Like, hey, you got the Juno Award. Did you get a call one day like, you went multi-platinum in Japan? You're
Well,
like,
it doesn't work
"We're in
like that.
Japan?"
They plan to do that. So when
Really?
I signed to EMI at the time in the Middle East, and they're the ones who signed Japan on board, so it was EMI Japan. And once a major label like that, feels that you're good for that market. It was the Africa record, and they're like, that's going to be big because it's dance hall, it's reggae, and it's got that 80s cover coming back. And that they knew it was going to be a number one, and it did become a number one. But I hardly toured, man. I did some promo stuff, made no money there, made from royalties and things, but not from touring. It's so funny.
That's so different from
Crazy.
what I'm used to.
Right.
And
Is it
you
all
as
touring
well.
with you,
Well, when
essentially?
you have a hit like that,
You'd
you
think.
go play there
I know.
big time.
You need a
you
Japanese
sell that
manager.
many records,
Yeah, right.
you're
Again,
doing,
so I
you're
just
playing
need
in front of
managers everywhere around
10,000
the world.
people
Hype.
with that kind of those kind of sales.
Yeah.
If
Everybody
you're in
taking
a
10%
hard rock
everywhere.
heavy metal band,
I get
sell a
$10.
million records in an area, you're playing big shows there.
Yeah,
with-
sure.
with other
Well, I've
acts.
noticed
So
certain
it-
territories I could tour, like Canada, for sure.
Yeah.
Like all my success here, I'm touring East Coast to West Coast all day.
Right.
But there's certain territories like that. I mean, I would think Middle East definitely. Like I went to Egypt, I've been to Dubai. I mean, that's a big tour. You can tour there for sure, and they come in big numbers.
Dubai's like the Germany argument, right? You want to be big in Dubai.
You want to be big in Dubai? Why? Just because they pay you well for shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back to
Sell out.
Yeah. Right. And because I love them there.
back to doing
Not necessarily in that
metal.
order.
Yeah.
The other thing that we have now is that you're in a genre that is primarily popular live. Like there aren't metal bands
absolutely.
that can succeed without touring. Jazz is like that
same
as
way.
well.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask Karl. Like those people that bought those records, they may not necessarily even be like fans of your face, as you as a person. They like the song, and
that's
they
it.
listen.
That's
to it.
my
But they're
business.
not thinking. Yeah, they're not going. Let's call Karl.
Right.
Up." And that's the difference.
It
that's all.
depends. Like we
Good
went
for you though for selling that many records. I don't care
It
how you
happens
did
both
it. Or,
ways.
I don't
There
care.
are your fans,
Yeah.
with people who feel they can connect with you,
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't. It's just your song. So
Right.
I have that capability to do that.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a plus for me as opposed to a minus.
Yeah, it's just how it is today.
How it is.
It's how it is today. Like I said, I've lived through. I'm a full-time musician.
Yeah.
I've done this my whole life, and survived it. I mean, I'm lucky,
for you.
proud that. But I had to work hard to do it. But I've lived through 4 decades of the industry. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and I've watched it twist,
Oh, man.
and turn and change, and it's just
Just
been-
in 10 years that I've been doing, or
Wow.
12 years, I've seen it change. Twist and
Wow,
change.
it's just incredible, and I feel so lucky that there's been this resurgence of '80s bands, and it's mostly
I love
in,
the 80s.
it's mostly in America.
great.
It's big here too. I mean, we do well in Canada too, man.
Sure.
we do.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean-
I'm embracing a whole new era for the Killer Dwarfs. We got albums coming out. We got a live album coming out.
What's your biggest market? Is it the U.S. or is it Canada?
It's the U.S. Yeah, and Canada's great too. But
Sure.
we'll play we'll sell out a 600-seat concert club here or something, which I love, is great, like a Phoenix type venue.
Right.
But in America, we'll play bigger shows. We'll play festivals, M3 festivals, Rocklahoma, all these big festivals. And there's some cool. There's even different bands of your genre's been on it too.
I feel it's
Linkin
like a
Park.
nostalgia
Linkin
thing's coming
Park
back.
was on one
Yeah, that's totally.
thing we did, but Twisted Sister was on too on the same bill.
Well, I got to say that's one place there too where Canadian artists are lucky.
Yeah.
Because Canadian artists tend to get on a lot of festival shows.
Right.
I can't tell you how many musicians in Canada I've interviewed who say thank God for the festival circuit.
Absolutely.
Because that's
Definitely.
where they get, just like I said about opening for other bands.
Oh, yeah.
The festival circuit is where so many get discovered. But going back to, you've been in this industry from vinyl to digital, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I got to say this, again, as someone who grew up in the States and immigrated to Canada years ago, boy, in so many ways where everybody sitting here is lucky, is that music has gone digital. Because when I was growing up, most of you never would have been heard in the States because music just didn't cross borders the way it does now. And it's because of digital and the internet and social media that Canadian artists are getting on a world stage, probably now more than they ever have.
It's a double-edged sword, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely.
I agree.
Because, on one hand, it does filter out the top of the top performers, singers, songwriters, but now everybody can have their moment, which is good and bad, right? Because it's not doesn't mean everyone's going to be great at what they're doing. There's a lot of auto-tune vibes. There's a lot of people that can put out songs and they're not necessarily that great, but there's something they have that's extra, this X factor, so it becomes congested. So there's
Saturated.
saturated, absolutely.
Big time.
What I love about it is, very recently I was in that place where I was asking permission to perform. I was asking permission to be a rapper because you're a nobody. No one's ever heard of you. They don't know you. They have no relationship with you, no emotional connection. and the internet took away the asking permission. It killed the gatekeeper, and people like me who have a killer instinct, who can't be stopped, who get up every day and go, we win. Because the playing field's been leveled now, and if you're willing to tour, and if you're willing to invest, and if you're willing to invest in your own skill and make yourself great, the internet opens up a giant funnel of people looking for somebody like you. If you're good at it. Not everybody's good at the internet, but if you're good at it, it's a real avenue. And I've made a living off of the internet. If the internet didn't exist, I'd probably still be at an ad agency. So I'm the happiest boy in the world. Thank you.
And I've made it work for me as well. I embraced it. I did. I embraced it. Like I said, I'm hands-on big time on social media.
You have to.
With the Dwarfs, you know, like not all of us are, but I am. And it's
Good for you.
It's helped. It's helped. Like we've been back 4 years touring right now, and it exploded due to XM radio, due to the internet, and due to these Monsters of Rock cruises that we were involved in
Nice.
that go out of Florida every year. So it's like, you know, it's amazing. These cruises are phenomenal. We've been on 4 of them. And it's like 4,000 rock fans, metal fans, 80s fans, whatever, and 50 bands of the best caliber of metal bands of the day, like Queensryche and bands like that, right? What could possibly go wrong?
Titanic.
So I'm telling you, man, and nothing ever goes wrong. It's just so fun, and it's like a brotherhood. Everybody's like, they're like brothers out there. Like the fans are like brothers, and we're visible on the boat. We hang out with the fans. We drink beers with them. We hang out with them.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing, man. It really is.
Well, I'll also say this. I think as Canadian artists, you got to hang out after the show, right? You talked about liking that. I think more than any artists around the world, Canadian artists kind of have to befriend their audience,
We're nice.
right?
I think so, but those are also my memories, right? Like I got to meet every single member of Blind Melon. Our whole band was there when they played Lee's Palace, and we hung out, and we got to meet them, and it was that's something like it was definitely an imprinted kind of moment where it's like I won't ever forget that. And if I can make that experience happen for somebody else, like I get just as much out of it. Like unless I'm sick, or unless my voice is going, I absolutely, it's definitely an old school way of doing it, and it's taken me a long time to learn how to to just appreciate. You got to try to meet everybody, and it can't just be like this really quick handshake, right? So. It's old school, and it's the only way to kind of like look somebody in the eye and be like, thank you for
feel the
coming
same
here.
way, man.
Thank you for coming here. Thanks for listening to music. I mean, yeah, the industry's changed, but like going to see a live band, it doesn't matter if somebody's used their phone and like you're listening to it through laptop speakers, you've missed it. You've missed the idea, right? Like if you're there at a live show, it can change what you think about a band.
And as a Canadian, we've already touched on how important touring is, because you have to leave Canada to go chase that commercial success. And a lot of times I'll get a message from a fan in Nebraska, like, when are you coming back? And the answer is in like 18 months. Because I've got so many other places to get to before I'm coming back to Nebraska. So when I'm there, what I say to that guy and the time I give him is everything. It's going to be the difference between waiting another 18 months before I come back or not. And so that connection it's everything. It's why he believes me on social media. When I'm hitting him back, he's like, yeah, he was like that in real life too.
And we've always done that. We pride ourselves in being that band. We're living in a day and age of meet and greets cost money now.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah, that's
dumping
true.
money out to go, and we won't do that. We refuse to do it. We do 2
Good for you.
hours free meet and greet every night after every show. And we
common-
wait.
it's
We
common
wait.
for you
We
as well?
wait till we sign
Mine's free.
everything.
We usually serve alcohol, that's why.
But it's
Well, we do, I'm not joking.
but part of your success is that you do meet with people after show. You kind of
It's like
in
you
your
said, it's
genre,
part of it. I
important.
mean,
It's a nice Canadian thing. We're
But
too nice.
the thing is, though, I'll speak contrary to your story. Most of the people I've met have completely destroyed my image of them. Completely. And
Never meet your heroes.
I always meet my heroes, and they've been. I'm not going to name names, but I got to the point where I was like, I was so aware of that moment of being completely disappointed that when someone takes the time to write, when someone takes the time to say hello with your fans, you make sure that you make them feel that you're the one, honestly, that you are the
Absolutely.
one that is grateful for them being there, because they won't.
You're right.
They're coming back if you make them understand, but it's a two-way street versus being.
Can I ask, were they Canadian?
It was me.
Because I think there is
Atlanta.
something.
They were not Canadian.
Okay,
They're
well,
all
that story
American.
checks out because I haven't really met. I haven't met too many. I mean, I've met Canadian musicians on a bad day, maybe on a long tour, who are maybe off their game. But most Canadian doesn't like.
You're right.
honestly, how about us meeting today? Like,
I don't
It's
think
been really
Ward,
fun.
I don't
It's
think
been-
Ward would have invited us if we were all dicks.
But we weren't screened. We weren't screened for dicks.
yeah.
I don't know how you figure that
I
out.
think Matt
Okay.
wanted to show.
I love the
So
blue
somewhere out there,
conversation.
Don't go there.
So wrapping up, somewhere out there right
Wrapping
now, hopefully, is somebody watching, and that's it. No, hopefully out there right now is somebody watching who's a young musician in Canada who wants to make it, and maybe wants to make it in Canada, right? What is your advice to them?
That's such a loaded question.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. In all honesty, in this day and age, we all have to make a living. That's the bottom line. It's not a pipe dream, rock and roll or rap or whatever we're doing. It's like you need to survive. You need to eat. And there is no money in the music industry. When you go into it, when you start out, you're broke. And some of us get lucky. Like all of us here have made money. We're lucky. But we worked very hard to get there to do that. You need to be 100% dedicated to your craft to be a star.
That's good
And I'm
advice.
talking day in, day out, 24 hours a day, if you're going to have any success. That's my advice. Work hard. Don't be lazy.
And you know what? Remember how you were saying that at the beginning of your career, you knew that you were the shit. So it was like, but we all did. We had no choice. I mean, this is what drove you.
need that, though.
You need because you're gonna fail the
think
first
you're the
time. You're gonna
shit.
fail the second time. You're gonna fail the third time. And why? So if you don't have that drive, so keep that drive, and that's what will get you going. And one day you'll actually have a success. I remember when before Africa broke, I had a couple records out. So I had a couple of albums before my big single. Everybody knows me from that moment on, but there was a life before then, and I was working hard for about 10 years, and no one cared about Karl Wolf. Nobody even looked at me, and they were like, "No, kid, we'll take your song," and it was cool, but it wasn't like, "What about me as a songwriter, as me as an artist?" And then you never know how far you are from that wall of success. So don't ever quit, because once you quit, you go back. Just keep going, and one day it'll happen.
Almost to the same point. The only consistent thing, I've worked with a bunch of producers, and they always, if you come in with 50 songs, they want to hear one more. Like, you can't ever have too much material. Like, you can't ever be like, oh, well, I've written that song and I'm the best. And like there's no end point, right? You have to keep write and rewrite, and also learn how to work with people. Like when we were young, I was way too stubborn. And I didn't know how to be flexible in the studio at the right moments. Sometimes there's a hill you want to die on, and you're like, no, that's the idea. I want to leave it like that.
Absolutely.
But, the clock's ticking. You got to finish the record, and you have to communicate with people and work with them.
Yeah.
And there's everybody's got, everybody in that room with the producer. You got to come out. The song's got to win. The song, the best idea for the song is sort of like that's the.
But believe in it, though.
mantra.
But believe in your song.
Sure.
Right.
I know a lot of artists that believe in their song, a whole bunch. Like that's not a problem I see in the hip hop community. Everybody believes in themselves times 1,000.
But it's I feel the pain. I feel the pain of like coming in with a great song.
Yeah.
And then if somebody suggests something, you can't just close up. You can't just. You got to be like
Being
okay,
able to
let's
manage
try
your
it.
ego, manage the creative process is a huge factor. I think,
Easier
for
said
sure.
than done for me.
Yeah, I know for sure.
I was going to say, don't go into music.
And with that in mind, thank you, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause.
He's too honest, this guy.
That's the medium, man. I like it.
That is it for another edition
not
of
wrong.
Offstage with Ward Anderson. I want to thank my guests, Darrell Dwarf, come on, Matt Dusk, Illvibe, Karl Wolf, and Scott Anderson. And as always, when the show is over, we hope you join the conversation off stage. Good night, everybody.
That was awesome.
Absolutely.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was a good conversation.